So I don't know if you've flown WestJet recently. If you did, I'm guessing you booked your flight online. I think most people do. But if you happen to book by phone, you might have heard this.
Please note, a fee will apply to fares for our economy cabins that are purchased through the contact center. For Econo and Econo Flex fares, there will be a $25 fee plus taxes.
A $25 charge for buying your ticket over the phone. Your first reaction to that might be, are you kidding me? But airlines have been doing things like this for decades.
I am sick of paying all these airline fees just to go on a vacation.
30,000.
So with the seatbelt fee and safety charge, a total comes to $1.2 million.
And the more I dug into all of these fees, the crazier the story became, because you really start to realize how the entire business model of these airlines is changing. They've already changed. And you know what experts say is coming next?
That's nothing. Wait, it can get worse.
So my first instinct when I read about this $25 phone booking fee was to try to understand it from WestJet's point of view. Because phone operators do cost money, right? And maybe in a world where fewer people are booking by phone, it gets proportionally more expensive to keep all of those call centers around. But also, one argument that I keep hearing from airlines is that they're just giving us choice.
Airlines argue that these, service charges benefit us as customers because we only pay for the services we need. So the ticket price is going to be lower. And then if you don't need a checked bag, you're not going to be paying for that. So great, we all benefit.
I was reading this article in Forbes from the former CEO of Spirit Airlines, Ben Baldanza, and he made this point about extra fees. Back in 2007, he writes, we saw that just over 30% of our customers did not check a bag. So we decided to institute a $20 bag fee and at the same time lowered all of our fares by $20. This is called unbundling, which is basically just charging for different aspects of air travel, where those things used to be included in the base fare. Again, airlines argue it helps keep base fares low and customers only pay for the things that they want. So back to the $25 phone booking charge. Is WestJet lowering the cost of all of their tickets by $25 and then only charging $25 to people who book by phone? Well, we asked WestJet that question and they kind of answered us, but didn't really answer the question. WestJet introduced a $25 service fee for new Econo and Econo Flex fare bookings when calling the contact center. They go on, this change will ensure that those needing assistance from the contact center can quickly reach an agent. Then they said this is a standard industry practice. Like I said, didn't really answer the question, but John Graddick did.
These ancillary fares are established and put in place by carriers based on what they think the customer will be willing to pay.
John knows what he's talking about. He used to work at Air Canada in airport operations, almost 20 years at the company. Now he teaches aviation management at McGill. The way he tells it, it doesn't cost WestJet $25 every time you make a phone call to buy a ticket, no more than it costs them $55 in fuel or whatever when you want to check a second bag.
There's no correlation between the price that they charge and the cost to provide that service.
Airlines can charge whatever they want for their fees. It's free market economy. There's legally, they can, it's up to the customer to decide whether or not they're going to pay these fees.
And that is where we start to run into a problem. In a way, we shouldn't be surprised by any of this. Every airline has this model of advertising its lowest fares possible and then making money by charging for extras. And this has been true for decades.
In my days when I was at Air Canada, you paid $300 round trip for from Toronto to Calgary, non-refundable, no changes, and 14-day advance purchase, 7-day minimum stay. So if you violated any one of those things, you pay.
And fast forward to 2024, airlines have extra fees for seat selection, for making changes to things that you've selected, for travel insurance, for priority boarding, for checked baggage, for carry-ons, for in-flight snacks and meals, for Wi-Fi. Now let's stick with the example of WestJet, because they just made headlines for this. They recently introduced a super low tier of ticket that replaces its lowest basic tier, except this new tier has even fewer features. And I'll show you what I mean. So let's say I'm booking a flight from Toronto to Charlottetown. Round trip, July 15th departure date, returning a week later. The ultra basic ticket, as you can see right here, is quite a bit cheaper, about $100 cheaper than the next fare up. But you see in very small print here, no carry-on bag permitted. No carry-on bag at all. No changes or cancellations, seat selection and checked bags for a higher fee than you'd otherwise pay if you went with a different package. You earn no points, you're last to board, and you have to click a bit to realize this. You'll also be seated at the very back of the plane. So either this is consumer empowerment through choice, or it's something else.
There are a few things you should know if you decide to choose Ultra Basic, such as carry-on bags are not permitted. But don't worry, you can still check a bag for whatever we want to charge you. What are you going to do? A change of clothes is a luxury now.
We haven't seen the end of it. What do you see the extra ultra basic fare? Strapped on the wings. Only kidding.
You know, it says something that he felt the need to make clear that he was only kidding. But the point he's making is that in terms of fare price, airlines are very much in a race to the bottom. Low-cost carriers like Ryanair, they fly in Europe, they've been gobbling up market share for decades. And key to this success is unlocking the power of fees, a la carte add-ons, extra sources of income. Ancillary revenue is what they call it. And here in Canada, Canadian Jet Lines, Flair Airlines, specializing in cheap fares, they've been setting the example.
One of the first things that people look for when they're buying plane tickets is the price.
Now, 40% of Flair's revenue, 40% is ancillary fees. So without those ancillary fees, Flair would not be in business. So what WestJet is doing is matching not only the price, but also the conditions and the services that are associated with these different price levels.
And as these low-fare airlines saw more and more success, the legacy airlines like Air Canada and WestJet had no choice but to respond. They mimicked this winning strategy of finding new ways to chop up the flying experience into smaller parts and selling them individually to create a new revenue stream. There are even entire companies dedicated to helping airlines do this. It's the number one selling point of this aviation consulting firm, building ancillary revenue. And accordingly, their CEO says Air Canada's ancillary revenue jumped to nearly $2 billion in 2022, up nearly 50% from 5 years earlier. It's becoming a more and more important source of revenue for the company. Also, a steady stream of revenue that doesn't spike high and low the way regular airfare does.
Just to give you an idea, in the US in 2023, last year, just baggage, in terms of the fees associated with baggage, $33 billion worth of revenue. Lots of money, billions of dollars. Those ancillary fees, they may be nickels and dimes for some people, but to the airline industry, it's big bucks, and it's getting to be bigger.
What I think really irks people about these fees isn't that they're all of a sudden having to make difficult choices about what to buy and what not to buy. It's that they feel that they're having to buy things that used to be included. It's a bit like paying more for a cheeseburger, but then having to pay a cheese fee on top of it. Legally, the fight against all of these extra fees has been around transparency. The criticism being that airlines haven't always been upfront or straightforward with what fees are going to get tacked onto the price of your ticket. And in the US, Joe Biden has been waging a war against so-called junk fees.
Junk fees.
Junk fees.
Junk fees.
He's mandated that fees be listed alongside airline prices as part of the upfront cost. But even then, several of the country's biggest airlines are suing in response, saying that that rule isn't going to clarify things for the consumer, it'll just confuse them. And beyond that,
It's really up to the business to decide, and up to the consumer if they are willing or not to pay those prices. As long as it is advertised and it's not against any other laws, yes.
The government has said we are going to make airline fees more transparent, but they haven't quite said how.
The pendulum has to swing back now some way. What can you or can't you charge for? Right now, there's no oversight whatsoever. The airlines charge whatever they want for whatever service they would like to charge it for.
but no matter how you feel about how airlines price their tickets, it's clear they're making good money doing it because travelers continue to pay.